The Middle Needs Design, an Open Education Story of Impact by Brittany-Fruia Zara. I want to tell you a story about a project that began as a curriculum and became something larger. It became a way of thinking about how people enter open education work, how they move through it, what gets in the way, and what kind of support makes movement possible. This is the story of my Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board OER Fellowship Capstone project, designing for enterability, open education in practice. But really, it's a story about the middle. The part after someone says yes, the part before the work becomes real, the part that needs design. A lot of people believe in open education. They care about affordability, they care about access, they care about student success, they care about knowledge being more open, more usable, and more shared. That belief is important. It's often the first door. The moment that someone says, yes, this matters, I want to do something with it. But believing in open education is not the same as knowing what to do next. It's not the same as knowing where to search, how to evaluate quality, what license to choose, what can be adapted, what should be left alone, how to think about accessibility, how to plan for students, or how to build something that lasts longer than one good semester. Belief can bring someone to the door, but it does not automatically show them the path through. My capstone project began in that space, after someone says, I'm interested in open educational resources, or OER, but before they know how to turn that interest into practice. I started calling that space the messy middle. The messy middle is not a failure point. It's not where people stop caring. It's where the real work begins to appear. The searching, the comparing, the questioning, the can I actually use this? The does this fit my students? And what do I do now? This is where the project began. The middle is where people search for resources, evaluate quality and fit, interpret Creative Commons licenses, think about accessibility, consider student needs, decide whether to adopt, adapt, create, remix, or pause, and then, if the work's going to be useful for anyone else, they have to document what they found, what they ruled out, what surprised them, what gaps remain, what someone else might need to know next. That middle work is real, but too often it's invisible. At the University of Texas at Arlington, I saw that the problem was not a lack of interest. People cared. The institution had invested. There were grants, publishing infrastructure, course marking efforts, faculty champions, and real momentum around open education. But even with all that, the path from interest to implementation could still feel unclear. Faculty were not failing open education, and it's not that they weren't interested. They were trying to find their way through a process that had too many hidden steps. The problem wasn't interest or lack of interest. The problem was the path. That became one of the central lessons of the project. A door is only open if someone can get through it. Open education can't only invite people in, it has to support them through. Because if someone's standing at the doorway carrying search strategies, licensing questions, accessibility concerns, budget planning, revision work, hosting decisions, documentation, and time they don't really have, the door can technically be open, but that doesn't mean the path is enterable, and cheering from the other side just isn't enough. So the question changed for me. I wasn't only asking, how do we teach people about OER? I was asking, how do we make open education more enterable? How do we help people carry less at once? How do we make the next step visible? How do we turn scattered information into a pathway? How do we make support easier to find before someone is already overwhelmed? That question shaped everything I built next. The first answer was open education in practice, a practical, strategic curriculum for implementing open education and open educational resources, or OER. I designed it to help people move from understanding open education in theory to practicing it in real teaching and learning contexts. Not just what's OER, but how do I search for it? How do I evaluate it? How do I know if I can use it? How might I adapt it? How could openness change the way students participate? The curriculum became the foundation, the place where the language lived. The curriculum moves through 5 major topics: foundations of openness, open tools and platforms, licensing and copyright, adopting, adapting, and modifying OER, and open pedagogy and co-creation. Each topic was designed to make one part of the work more visible, not to overwhelm people with everything open education could be, but to give them enough structure to begin, enough language to ask better questions, and enough clarity to keep moving. At UTA, I adapted the curriculum into the Open Education Trailblazers Canvas course, and for that course, I built a 4-badge pathway. Open Explorer, Open Investigator, Open Pathfinder, Open Strategist. Each badge answered a real learner question. Where do I start? How do I know what is good enough? Can I legally and realistically use this? What's my recommendation, and how do I explain it? The badges gave the curriculum a sequence. They turned the learning into a path someone could walk. The badge pathway became more powerful when it connected to a meaningful next step. For the UTA Cares grant, faculty completed the Open Explorer badge before accessing the grant application. That created a stronger starting point. It created a shared baseline before proposal development. It helped faculty encounter foundational open education concepts before they were asked to describe a project. And it helped consultations move beyond repeating the same starting points every time. Open Explorer became more than a badge, it became an on-ramp. I also created the Open Education Research and Planning mini-grant. This changed the shape of the work. Instead of asking faculty to adopt OER before they knew what existed in their discipline, the mini-grant funded the exploration. Searching, evaluating, figuring out what was possible, and documenting all counted. That may sound simple, but it marked a major shift. It gave people permission to learn before promising an outcome. It truly treated inquiry as legitimate open education labor. The OER tracker and related documentation tools helped make the search process visible. Documentation was not just paperwork, it was scaffolding. It helped faculty keep track of where they searched, what terms they used, what resources they found, what looked promising, what did not fit, what licensing questions remained, and what decisions might make sense. The point was not to document for documentation's sake. The point was to keep people from losing the thread, to help them move from curiosity to evidence, from evidence to judgment, from judgment to a next step. And the landscape briefs carried that learning forward. A faculty member's search process did not disappear when the cohort ended. Their disciplinary context, discoveries, gaps, questions, and recommendations became a reusable artifact. Something another educator could learn from, something a program could point to, something the institution could remember. That was important because open education work often happens in private. In notes and emails and consultations in someone's head, the landscape briefs helped turn private exploration into public knowledge. During the Capstone period, 35 faculty engaged with the Trailblazers badge pathway through the self-paced Canvas course, the UTA Cares grant process, and the mini-grant. 25 faculty earned the Open Explorer badge. 14 completed the full 4-badge sequence through the mini-grant pathway, but the impact was not only in the numbers. The deeper impact was that the work became more visible. Faculty were not just saying, I want something free, they were naming what they needed to find, how they would evaluate it, what accessibility issues mattered, what implementation would actually require. The middle was becoming easier to see. As part of this capstone project, I reviewed 71 UTA Cares grant applications from 2020 to 2026. I was looking for how faculty described their projects over time, and I saw a shift. Later applications more often named evaluation, accessibility, adaptation, feasibility, and implementation. They did not only describe a desire for free materials. They described course gaps, student needs, search processes, feedback plans, and real questions about fit. I don't claim this capstone caused that shift alone. UTA's open education ecosystem was much bigger than this one project. But the capstone helped strengthen the structures that made that kind of planning easier to support, repeat, and recognize. One of the most important lessons I learned is that availability is not the same as support. A self-paced course isn't automatically a pathway. A grant isn't automatically a completed project. A value isn't automatically a lived condition. I could build the course, I could publish the materials, I could make the badges available. But people still needed purpose, timing, invitation, structure, and human support. The resource being there was not enough. The path needed to be designed around how people actually enter and move through the work. The middle needs design. It needs clear entry points, humane pacing, documented options, reusable tools, visible expectations, support that does not live only in one person's head, and structures that make help easier to find before someone is already overwhelmed. That's what this capstone became for me. Not just a curriculum, not just a course, not just a set of badges, a way of designing for the part of open education where people most often get stuck. This capstone now lives as a case study, a curriculum, a Canvas course package, a Canvas Commons import, a common cartridge export, and a project material folder. It also lives as a question I keep carrying forward. How do we build systems people can actually enter? The resources aren't meant to be copied exactly, they're meant to be adapted. For faculty development, OER grant preparation, mini grants, workshops, micro-credentials, consultations, department planning, open pedagogy work, in any context where people need more than a door, they need a path. My hope is that others will use this project to look for their own messy middles. Where do people stall? What expectations are invisible? What support lives in only one person's head? What could be made clearer, smaller, more documented, more humane? The goal isn't to make open education easy in a simplistic sense. The goal is to make it enterable, because a door is only open, really, if someone can get through it. And the middle is where we decide whether people are left to figure it out alone, or whether we build something that helps them keep going.